the problem with the Act of Parliament is that, firstly, it's constitutionally very awkward, and secondly, it will mean, I think, that some people who are in fact guilty will be exonerated. That's the price the government is prepared to pay, and that's really, I think, a political judgment as much as anything else.
The hundreds of postmasters, sub-postmasters and mistresses who were wrongly prosecuted in the Horizon IT scandal will be swiftly exonerated and compensated. He gave a statement just before today's PMQs.
Mr. Speaker, this is one of the greatest miscarriages of justice in our nation's history. People who worked hard to serve their communities had their lives and their reputations destroyed through absolutely no fault of their own. The victims must get justice and compensation. Sir Win Williams' inquiry is undertaking crucial work to expose what went wrong, and we've paid almost £150 million in compensation to over 2,500 victims. But today I can announce that we will introduce new primary legislation to make sure that those convicted as a result of the Horizon scandal are swiftly exonerated and compensated. We will also introduce a new upfront payment of £75,000 for the vital GLO group of postmasters. And can I thank my honourable friend, the member for Thirsk and Malton, for all his hard work on this issue. He will set out more details to the House shortly. We will make sure that the truth comes to light, we right the wrongs of the past, and the victims get the justice they deserve.
Well, let's talk now to Ken Macdonald, Lord Macdonald, who's a former Director of Public Prosecutions. Very good afternoon from us.
Hello.
Are you any clearer as to exactly what all of that means, how the exoneration will work?
No, because it's never happened before. So this is unprecedented. This is Parliament taking the power to determine who is guilty or not guilty from the courts and exercising that power itself. I mean, we can see that in this case it's being done for the very best of reasons, but I think one question is whether this establishes a precedent and whether this means that it will happen again in the future, perhaps for less noble reasons. So I think there are some concerns about this. Of course, everyone is agreed that the innocent postmasters and postmistresses must get justice. There were two possible courses for the government. One was this. The other was to agree expedited proceedings in the Court of Appeal with the judges. And the Secretary of State for Justice, Alex Chalk, had discussions yesterday, I think including with the Lady Chief Justice, about this. I think probably what the judges said was that they couldn't simply give a blanket ruling that all these convictions were overturned, and they need to look at the facts in some of the cases, not least because they've already looked at a number of these cases and have found somewhere in their view the postmaster, postmistress was in fact guilty because Horizon had nothing to do with the case. So I think they probably wanted to retain the right to conduct some scrutiny of the cases. But I'm sure a way could have been found. They could have brought back some recently retired Court of Appeal judges and processed these cases very quickly, determined which were Horizon cases genuinely and which weren't, and allow the convictions to be overturned in the Horizon cases. I think it's a shame that wasn't the process. It wouldn't have been as quick, of course, as a simple Act of Parliament. But the problem with the Act of Parliament is that, firstly, it's constitutionally very awkward. And secondly, it will mean, I think, that some people who are in fact guilty will be exonerated. That's the price the government is prepared to pay. And that's really, I think, a political judgment as much as anything else.
Yeah. When you say less noble reasons might happen in future, what exactly do you mean by that? Can you flesh that out for us?
Well, I mean, if we have a situation in which, rather than the courts, judges and juries deciding who's guilty and who's not guilty, rather than that, we have a situation in which politicians sitting in Parliament make that determination. They can make that determination for good reasons, or they might in the future, who knows. There may be other cases in which they want to make that determination for more venal or political reasons. What I'm saying really is that once you've set the precedent, it's quite difficult to see how you make it genuinely a one-off and how it doesn't tempt administrations, perhaps less noble administrations in the future, from exercising. You know, we have this separation of powers for a reason. You know, politicians, governments make laws, courts interpret laws. If people break those laws, the courts determine whether they're guilty or not guilty, and if they are, the court sentences them. Here we're muddying the waters and saying that Parliament can do some of the court's job for the courts. I think that's a little risky.
Yeah. I think one of the things that has surprised many people, Lord Macdonald, is the power of the Post Office to pursue prosecutions. Do you think that needs to change too? In fact, can that change?
Yeah, there's no question about this. The Post Office has shown itself to be catastrophically incapable of exercising prosecution functions fairly. This is not a surprise. If you have in-house lawyers, people who are part of a large corporation with its own culture, its own interests, its own demands on your loyalty, if you have those people conducting prosecutions, they've got skin in the game. And it's absolutely essential that prosecutors should be independent and robust, which is why all criminal prosecutions should be carried out by the independent prosecuting authority, which is the CPS. And I think the government will remove the power to prosecute from the Post Office, but I very much hope it doesn't restrict its gaze to the Post Office. I think the power to prosecute should be taken away from all of these large bodies and placed with the CPS, because you can't have prosecutors with skin in the game. It makes them lack objectivity, and as we've seen in the Post Office cases, that has consequences for disclosure, for the conduct and fairness of the proceedings, and the result is catastrophic miscarriage of justice.
Thank you very much indeed for your time this afternoon. That's Lord Macdonald, former DPP.